y'all doing? It's your boy Crawford, and right here we're about to learn how to subtract mixed numbers. We're about to learn how to subtract when using mixed numbers. Okay guys, so let's look at this real quick. So we have right here 2 1/3, and we have right here 1 4/5. Now when subtracting mixed numbers, we look at this, the first thing I notice within this example is that both of these mixed numbers have different denominators. So we have previously learned that we can't add nor subtract fractions when those denominators are different. So we would have to find a least common denominator. But also, what I like to do to make subtracting easy, especially when you have to regroup, I like to first change these mixed numbers into an improper fraction. Okay, so a mixed number is when you have a whole number in a fraction, a whole number in a fraction. An improper fraction is when we have a fraction where that numerator is greater than the denominator. So what I like to do is take both of these mixed numbers and change them into an improper fraction. Okay, and I have a video on how to do that. So if you want to watch that video just to get a quick refresher, go ahead and do so. Okay, but anyway, getting back to this problem. I want to change these mixed numbers into an improper fraction. And the way I do that, I think of the abbreviation for Texas, which is TX. So I'm going to do that over here, TX. And I just follow the order of operations. I know that 3 times 2 gets me 6, and 6 plus 1 gets me 7. So I know that this is really 7/3. I know that that is really 7/3 because the denominator stays the same. Okay, so let me go and change this mixed number into an improper fraction. Okay, so I know that 5 times 1 is 5, and then take that 5, add it to 4. 5 plus 4 is 9. And now that becomes 9/5 because 5 is the denominator and it stays the same. So my new subtraction problem is 7/3 minus 9/5. 7/3 minus 9/5. So now what I have to do is find the least common multiple or the least common denominator. And because I know my multiplication facts, I know that the least common multiple is going to be 15. So that new denominator is going to be 15 for both of these fractions. And if you need a refresher on how to find the least common denominator and the least common multiple, you can watch that video as well. So the least common denominator for 3 and 5 is going to be 15. So I know that my denominator was 3. I have to think, what can I multiply by 3 to get 15? And I know that I can multiply 3 by 5. And whatever I do to the denominator, I must do to the numerator. So I have to put times 5 up here. And I know that 7 times 5 gets me 35. So I now rename 7/3 into 35/15. Okay, write my subtraction symbol. I have to think of what can I multiply by 5 to get to 15. I know that 5 times 3 equals 15. So whatever I do to the denominator, I must do to the numerator. Okay, so that's times 3. And I know that 9 times 3 gets me 27. So now I have 2 fractions where the denominators are the same. I have 2 fractions where my denominators are now the same. So now all I have to do is simply solve the problem. All I have to do is simply solve the problem. So I'm just going to come over here to show my work. 35 minus 27, because we don't do anything with the denominators. Okay, so let me regroup here. I know that this is a 2. This becomes a 15. I know that 15 minus 7 is going to give me 8. So I know that 35/15 minus 27/15 is going to give me 8/15. And I know that this is our answer and that it is already simplified because 8 is not a multiple of 15, nor does 8 and 15 share a common factor. Okay, so that is the answer to that one. Let's go into the next example. For the next example, we have 1 1/2 minus 3/4. 1 1/2 minus 3/4. So when I look at the subtraction problem, the first thing I notice is that I have a mixed number and also that the denominators are different. So in my mind, for me to make this easier for me to subtract, I would like to change this mixed number into an improper fraction. A mixed number is a whole number in a fraction, and an improper fraction is where the numerator is greater than the denominator. Okay, so I'm going to change this into an improper fraction. And I want to use the abbreviation for Texas, which is TX. And I want to use the order of operations to solve it. I know that 2 times 1 is 2, and 2 plus 1 gets me 3. So this now becomes 3 halves minus 3 fourths. So my new subtraction problem is 3 halves minus 3 fourths. And the first thing that I notice is that our denominators are still different. And I have to find a least common multiple or a least common denominator before I can subtract these problems. And when I look at it, I know my multiplication facts. So I know that that common denominator is going to be 4 for each one. Okay? So I look at this. My denominator was 2. And it's now 4. I have to think of 2 times what gets me 4. I know that 2 times 2 gets me 4. And whatever we do to that denominator, we must do to that numerator. So that's times 2 as well. And I know that 3 times 2 gets me 6. So that's now 6 fourths. Okay, so this denominator is exactly the same. So I know my numerator is going to be exactly the same. So now all we have to do is subtract them. I know that 6 minus 3 is 3. And our denominators stay the same. So we know that 1½ minus 3 fourths will equal 3 fourths. And that is our final answer. Okay guys, that is how you subtract mixed numbers, okay? If you need more help with this, please practice at home. It's your boy Crawford and I am signing out.